Here we have the blog we built in episodes 1 and 2. Now it's time to take the next step and deploy it. Now there are a lot of hosting options out there, but in this episode we're going to focus on deploying with Heroku. First, you'll need to have an account with Heroku and have both Git and the Heroku command line interface, or CLI, installed. Let's get started. We'll head over to our command line, and from the directory of our app, we'll use git init to initialize our Git repo. Then we'll add all the files from our project to Git. Now we'll need to commit them. We'll use git commit to record our changes. With that done, we'll want to create an application on Heroku. We'll use Heroku create and then pass it a build pack, which is our way of telling Heroku we're deploying an Elixir application. We can see here that Heroku sets the build pack and then gives us a URL. In our case, the URL is rockydepths40660.herokuapp.com. This is the URL we'll be able to access our application on. We also need to add the Phoenix static build pack to our app in order to compile our static assets. Now let's add our production database. We'll use Heroku's Postgres add-on with the Hobby Dev plan. And with that added, we can configure our app for Heroku. We'll use Heroku environment variables to set our application-specific configuration. Let's start with the pool size for our database. According to the Phoenix docs, we want this to be just under the available connections. Our Hobby Dev database allows 20 connections, so let's set this to 18. Great. Now let's add a secret key base for our application to use. Phoenix provides a task to make creating one easy. Let's run mix phoenix gen secret, and then set this to the value of a secret key base environment variable. Now we can open prod.exs. We'll go to the config for our endpoint, and on the URL line, we'll add scheme with HTTPS as the value, since our default URL on Heroku will also be HTTPS. Then we'll update the host to match the one Heroku gave us for our app. Yours will be different. And we'll update the port to 443. Let's force all requests to use SSL. So we'll add the force SSL option. Now we need to tell our application to use the secret key base we set. We'll use system.getEnv and then the name of the environment variable we want to return. In this case, secret key base. I've added our repo config off screen, but let's walk through it. We'll set our database adapter to use Postgres. Our database URL was set up when we added the Heroku Postgres database. It's stored in the database URL environment variable. Then we'll use the pool size environment variable we created, defaulting to 10 if it's not found. And we'll set SSL to true. Since we're using Heroku environment variables, we don't need to import prod.secret.exs. So let's go down to the bottom of the file and remove the import. We'll also want to handle idle connections. Opening usersocket.ex will set a timeout of 45 seconds that will allow Phoenix to close idle connections before they reach Heroku's 55-second timeout. Now we can create a proc file for our Heroku deploy. In it, we'll tell Heroku to start our Phoenix server. With that done, let's head over to the command line and commit our updates. Now we can deploy to Heroku with git push Heroku master. And it looks like our app was deployed successfully. Now we just need to run our database migrations. We'll need to specify 2 as the pool size in order to prevent Ecto from trying to open more database connections than are available. Now we can open our app in the browser. Perfect, we see our familiar Welcome to Phoenix template. Let's check out our post by creating one. And great, our post was created. It looks like our app is up and running in production. Now, if we inspect the logs from our deploy, we see that the Elixir build pack defaults to Erlang 18 and Elixir 1.3.4. If we wanted to use a different version of Elixir or Erlang, how would we do that? Going back to our app, let's create a file named elixirbuildpack.config. And in it, we can specify the Erlang version with Erlang_version and the Elixir version with Elixir_version. We would then save this file, commit it, and on our next deploy, it would use Erlang 19 and Elixir 1.4. For a full list of customizations, be sure to check out the Heroku Build Pack Elixir project. I hope you enjoyed this episode and happy coding.